Okay, cool. So Emma Barry, welcome to the podcast.
I'm so happy to be here. It's wonderful to see you.
So you're dialing in from California. What time is it there?
It is 9 a.m. in the morning. The kids have just gone online on school, and it's a fairly nice day outside. And there's some big event going on outside, which I'm not going to check in on today.
Fair enough. Just switch off. So I've wanted to have you on the podcast since I started it. I'm so glad that I've managed to get you on. It's so hard to get space in your diary. You're so busy.
Always time for you, Will. Always.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So for anyone who's listening to the podcast who doesn't know you already, why don't you just give a quick kind of summary of your fitness career up to date? You can go super fast. Just give us the highlight reel.
Absolutely. Well, I was trying not to get into fitness. I was trying to be a lawyer, but I drank too much beer and didn't spend enough time in the library. So I ended up in the fitness industry, which I ended up adoring. Came out of Otago University, trained in New Zealand, got involved with Les Mills very early, was a personal trainer, was an instructor, and then moved into management, fell in love with the business of fitness, moved to Auckland, then was very fortunate to be one of the people shoulder tapped by Philip Mills to start Body Pump around the world. Went on that wonderful journey with the brand for about 25 years. We won green cards to the US, decided to go on that adventure, which has been interesting to say the least. And then worked for Equinox, luxury lifestyle brand Equinox, for 3 years and commuted to New York from LA. Had a wonderful creative team in the programming side of group fitness. And then before I got too old and tired, I've been consulting around the globe for the last 3 years to the innovative edge of fitness. So that's come in the form of boutiques right across the sector, actually luxury, right down to the value-based. So I've been working with Basic Fit in Central Europe for the last 3 years or so. And just really enjoying the time. So really pivoting like everyone into the fit tech, the well tech space. And most recently in the last few months have just launched with some previous colleagues, Good Soul Hunting, which is an executive search brand, which focuses in health and fitness, personalized health, sports, wellness.
I have to say, as someone who has probably got one of the most long and varied international fitness careers, you managed to summarize it in like 90 seconds or less. I was expecting that to go way longer.
Look, it's sad when you can kind of, boil your life down to a few sentences.
I feel like you've done that before. You've managed to give that little intro. Okay, so what I wanted to get you on the podcast to talk about is that we've done a lot of chat about COVID and a lot of chat about sort of how to deal with all the stuff that we're doing now. But one of the favorite things that I like to talk to you about that we often kind of chat about over a few wines or a few beers or a few cocktails when we catch up is looking forward to the future of fitness. Like, what is fitness going to be flash forward sort of 2-5 years? And so for the purposes of this conversation, I want to reference the past a little bit, but I'd love to pretend like we're in a perfect world where COVID has been successfully dealt with, either by a vaccine or whatever manner of solution. And so we're going to jump forward to the post-COVID world when we're no longer having to deal with lockdowns and restrictions. And what fitness is going to look like. So obviously it's going to be impacted by COVID, but what can we expect to see from the future of fitness? So I guess I'll just like throw it out to you. What do you think, what do you see as the major things and the major themes in fitness that are going to affect group fitness instructors in 2 years' time when we've dealt with COVID and everything's fine?
Yeah. No, I get it.
And politics is totally fine all around the world. We're not stressed about it anymore.
No, all of that. So look, I think, one of the things we've talked about during these times is kind of jumping forward 3 years and 3 months. Like there's definitely been, as we've talked about it many, many times, an accelerated approach to everything that fitness has. So I think it's really important always to come back to the principles. The principles are our bodies were designed to move. So that's not going anywhere. We do know that some people are cerebral and they're just sitting there and coding or sitting behind a computer for 18 hours a day. So we know that that does exist in our society, but generally we have bodies, we need to move them. We generally, when we find the right thing and we're relatively healthy, there's a lot of joy in movement. So I think these are some of the things that are underpinning. We know during these times that technology is definitely coming to the fore. I believe that we're in a very clunky phase right now where we're going through, shall I do digital or shall I do live? And it's like, guys, it's going to be everything. This is just an awkward moment right now that we're getting through, and we're compartmentalizing the pieces, but when you look at a retail experience now, the best brands in the world, you'll walk past the shop, it'll ping your phone, it's all one. And, we talk a lot about, or, in my service, we're talking a lot about phygital, where you are actually using technology to enhance the live experience. It is one and the same. It just is.
So by phygital, you mean physical plus digital, or?
Plus digital, yeah. So you're actually in this space where one is feeding to the other, and it's therefore a seamless experience for me, the user, in a way that I like to consume everything. So I think it's going to get really good. Now, with Apple's announcement, I think the other big theme is fitness, and we're so precious about it because this is our industry and it's the only thing in the world, but actually we're just another form of content. We're just another thing that makes up our lifestyle, which is we've kind of got our work, and even that's blending with our lives right now. So everything's crossing borders, work and play, and lifestyle and nutrition and fitness, and then biometrics, what does my body actually need today? Now, if we think about Tim Cook, he has mentioned that Apple wants to democratize and actually make it so that you can manage your health. You are managing your health. You've got basically a hospital and a gym on your wrist. Like, that's essentially their game. Now, you would think that that's also going to bring in health insurance and mental health and sleep patterns and nutrition and all the things and all the behavioral change things that they have data for decades on, right? They know more what you and I are going to need in 40 years than we do.
100%.
They've already got it laid out. So as we operate as part of the bigger health system, we're going to play our part, which is to move our bodies, to take the data from our bodies and actually give our bodies what we need. So I think that's going to be part of the journey. And of course, you're going to have the people who don't want to be told what to do, and they don't want to ask Siri anything, or they don't want to, you've kind of, and I have to say, I got a little bit scared at the latest Apple announcement when I look at the smart home, because I'm not sure what I'm doing in the new world. I just sort of wake up and exist and have some thoughts and say a few things, and then my life kind of rolls out on a carpet, and I'm like, there's a part of me that doesn't like that. So I'm just trying to come to terms with what that's going to be. But we are in the fitness world, we are going to be aware of what's happening in our body, whether we're using the Apple Watch or the MyZone belt or the Whoop or whatever the brands are, because let's face it, it's going to continue to be a new brand will come in, it'll turn into a unicorn, they'll get all the money lined up, they'll buy all the people they need to buy. That's the new world where we see going from 0 to 100 quite quickly. If the idea is very good, you've got to have the data, you've got to have the finances, you've got to have the people, and you've got to have the vision that sits underneath it. But those sorts of things are definitely going to come to play. So my view for the future is going to be, we are going to be highly influenced by big tech. It's just unavoidable because we're all in a digital construct now. So they've got money, they've got data, they can buy anyone on the planet, and they can basically roll out fitness like they do entertainment, like people in the nutrition, like retail, like all of the things that we have to make up our lifestyle are just going to be seamlessly pieced together, either bought out or consolidated and rolled out to us. So we are going to have a very hyper-personalized future, and it's going to be very informed. We're going to have the data from our bodies. We're going to be interacting with the world, which will be part physical, part digital, and that will be laid out. How we choose to engage with that will be a little bit personal, but I do feel like some of those choices are going away because it's just easy. Like if you jump on the platform, they start helping you think a certain way. They give you the things that you need based on what you've shown you need in the past. So I think all of that's going to happen. Where do instructors fit into that? We're still the Pied Pipers, we're still motivators, inspirers, people who inspire people to live this healthier life. So I think it's going to become more broad reaching. You're not just going to be a one-dimensional instructor who does knee lifts. You're going to be more a lifestyle where here are the things that come into your life and you help guide people through those choices. So I think there's that. I think you're definitely going to operate in a physical and a digital construct. So there's going to be, and I'm hoping from these times that we're going to be outside more, more in tune with, circadian rhythm. And, if we can be outside, we are outside, and we're all together in that, and we've got our feet in the soil and we've got our hands in the air, those sorts of
but
things.
you live in California.
Yeah, I definitely live in California. So, you could probably go outside a couple of days a year, whatever.
Exactly.
but no, I mean, these are some of the things I hope for. Um, our world will change dramatically, and we're already seeing that in the club world, because with operational costs going up, with even the number of classes, the spaces between classes, with distancing and all that kind of stuff, some of that stuff might stay. I don't know what's going to come back, but we do know from a lot of the researchers that some people prefer the times now. Some
Mm.
people prefer more space, less members, more service, more cleaning. So some of those remnants, I think, of COVID times will carry through as a new customer service level.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think that there's a lot of assumptions about the way the industry works. Like, this is a peak time. This is when people go to the gym. This is how many times you use a gym per week. The average member, utilizes all this stuff. And there's so much data. And then we've had this massive big break. And, it was initially going to be a 3-week break. And now it's become basically a whole year break. And so even if everything was taken away and there were no more restrictions placed on people, they've had this prolonged period where their habits have changed. And when they go back to consuming, they're not going to consume with those same patterns. And so an industry that's, grown since the 80s has 30, almost 40 years worth of data of this is the way you do it. This is the cardio equipment you buy. This is how you use your space. This is how you market and sell your gym memberships, is going to be completely shaken up and changed. Because I agree with you. I think that people have had a taste of a different life. And I don't think they're going to be willing to give that up immediately. I think they're going to want parts of that to stay.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you bring up a great point, and it's around touch points. So rather than thinking, oh my God, they're only going to come to my physical space like maybe once or twice a week, think there are an infinite number of ways that your brand could touch me. So many ways, and social media is just the beginning. We go to the obvious, we go to the nutrition, we go to the RA, am I wearing your shirt? We go to those obvious tangible things, but there's everything. There's mindfulness, there's meditation, there's so many ways that you could be reaching out, giving me a little nudge. Hey, all the best with that board presentation this afternoon. There's so many ways that your brand, once you become integrated truly into my lifestyle, and I choose you as one of the things that I hold close, there's so many ways that can be expressed. So it doesn't have to be that we're physically together. You just have to be top of mind, and you just have to be adding value to my life. And that is where the digital can come to the fore if used for good. So you're not slamming me with a whole lot of stuff I don't want. You make sure that nothing I don't want ever gets to me. You only give me what you know that I've asked for, or that isn't going to get me unsubscribing. Do you know what I mean? So I think,
Right, because you have that thing, if you spam someone, then they stop being a customer. So you've got to hit that sweet spot of communicating with them enough and regularly so that they want more communication from you, but not too much that they switch off or stop.
and I have to love you. So there's this whole thing around your brand, and with that is the people. And again, that's talking to your crowd. What part do I have to play in that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we saw a couple of things in lockdown. We saw that some people went racing off to the professionals, the Pelotons, the Mirrors, the Tonals, the Les Mills on demands, the shifts, all the people who do this for a living, right? And then you had people going, nah, I just want Will from 5 o'clock on a Monday, because I know Will and I feel home and he's my world. And so those are the opportunities. So, a lot of people are like, oh my God, Apple's coming. Yes, they are. And it's great because they're validating fitness, and they're going to put a whole lot more eyeballs on it that we've failed to do in our 15 years of fitness. So embrace that, and then get really good at delivering to the people that you appeal to. If you're in a community, a lot of people don't want the big corporate thing. They just want Will, and they want Will regularly, whenever, whatever that journey looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that I've watched a whole lot of gyms and studios of all manner of sizes go digital. I've helped many of them, and one of the things I've noticed most is that the biggest success is coming. I see that the biggest success is at either end of the market. It's the mass market Peloton, low price, easy, like high convenience factor, and then there's the big on community, not so professional, not so select. That the middle ground, it's a little bit like the budget gym and boutique split in the fitness market that happened kind of 10 years ago, is that it's all splitting down to big providers who provide massive convenience for a low price, and then very, very individualized, community-based, providing connection that people aren't getting anymore at the other end. And that can be done through Facebook or through your local instructor. And I'm not sure how much of a space there is for like medium-sized digital fitness providers. And I'll be interested to see how that shakes down, particularly when Apple comes out, because I don't know how they will manage to compete with such a big company on one side and still not being able to provide that really deep knowledge and personalization in the other.
Yeah, and I think that bifurcation was interesting in the physical world, and then I think in the digital world, I believe those worlds will come together. So if you look, I mean, we lost the whole middle market quite quickly. They were already financially stressed. They folded pretty quickly. Now, of course, we're seeing both ends, with Equinox under pressure, with
Mm,
our boutiques under pressure, and with the budgets under pressure because they've got so many locations that they have to stay open, etc. What I think is interesting is that I think in the new world, both will exist. And in a way, that whole middle market could essentially evaporate altogether because I believe that low price and quality are going to come together
yes.
through the enablement of technology. And all you need is one big player with incredibly deep pockets and the ability to own that whole service arm of I own all the products and the delivery mechanism
Yep.
and I understand you because I have the deep data. So actually, Apple coming out with a $9.99 product is kind of smart because you've just
Bundled within
undercut.
like a third, like, a $20 membership that has everything that you could possibly need to consume on a daily basis.
100%. So I believe that there's going to be the new business models, and I think that's interesting in the physical world as well. I've had quite a bit of feedback of people saying, you know what, I'll pay a lot of money to go to a club that has 500 members because I like the
Right.
space, I like the service, and I'm prepared to pay because I value my health, especially after these times. So you've kind of got these little offshoots. But I think because of digital, if you think about it, that's the way to scale.
Mm,
Now maybe you had a membership of 5,000 members, if you're a club, or maybe you had 500 if you're a boutique. But maybe now you can have exponentially so, which is going to bring your operational costs down, provided you can keep your music licensing and all that stuff under.
yeah.
Because what's the amount that Peloton pay? 33 cents in the dollar or something
Oh
huge.
yeah. It's like it's a massive part
It's
of
a
their
massive
actual and
amount
part of their revenue. Yeah.
to use the top songs and stuff like that. But so I think, I actually reckon there's going to be new business models, and I think the whole thing's going to get challenged. And we do know, and we're seeing this in every world right now, there's a consolidation. There's a
Right.
consolidation of software services, there's a consolidation of bricks and mortars, there's a consolidation of boutiques. Look at all the verticals that are being built through Exponential, through Varus and Equinox, through
Yeah.
Lesmore's programming.
To anyone listening to this, we will put links out to all of this stuff in an explanation because we're likely to just reel off many things that people haven't heard. But we might dive into a few of those. But
Sorry about that, but you did ask.
no, absolutely no. This is why I wanted you on here. Okay, so next question would be, you often work with like big chains and boutiques and people at the high level that have money to invest in learning more about this and money to invest in brand. Listeners of this podcast are instructors who might be teaching in a gym, they might be teaching for themselves. What other sorts of things that they should be doing re their own behavior and upskilling to allow them to be marketable in the future, do you think, based on what you know is coming?
Right, so you have to. There will be some anti-brands that manage to do a face-to-face thing. And actually, one of the examples I'm thinking, and even that's not a good example, I was just thinking of Bear Grylls and the Be Military Fit
Ah,
crowd.
right, yeah.
We started outdoors, but they've actually pivoted online and done some really cool stuff. But they've made their internal instructors famous by unlocking their uniqueness. So I think my point here is very few brands are just going to have a physical expression. So you turning up and teaching 15 classes a week is kind of going to be stressed. And the other thing is you're relying on others. And then you're having to, if I've got 20, 50, 10 instructors and less classes, and what does that end up looking like? And by the way, I want to keep my manager, so they're probably going to take most of the classes. So
Yeah.
we're unfortunately in that horrible situation. So given that, and given that you still want to stay in fitness, there's two things I'd be looking at. It's just get good at digital, and there's a number of courses out there. I know you've done some work in that space as well. You've just got to get used to talking to the little black dot.
Yeah.
Now, you have to get better at being you. And I think people join and do that in a way that just shines the authenticity. So people are not there for the picture perfect thing. They're there because you're you crack your jokes, you're out there, you're reaching out to people. So there's some people that do this very well, and there's others that just they really struggle with it. But it's just time, and do it without recording if you need to. It's just get over your first 10 hours of get over yourself. And then, but get started. I mean, the main thing is to get started. The market will tell you what they like and what they don't like, but you've just got to start. And, you know, you and I talk a lot about this. Everyone starts. Apple launches a product, then they get all the bugs out of it the next week.
Yeah.
No one gets something perfect launching it to market. The last 20% of your product should be developed in market and expect it to keep changing. So I would say get good at that. Get good at knowing what your personality is, and just don't be scared to show that, because that's the biggest bullshit meter that we know the millennials and the Gen Zs hate. They hate corporate, and they hate anything that smells of a brand. And you'll notice a lot of people are deliberately not putting out the flash TVC that's got all the bells and whistles, because it looks like a big advertisement.
Yeah.
And so it's tone deaf right now. People do not want that. They want to see Will, who's like, hey guys, we're 3 weeks into our 6-week thing. Congratulations if you're brand new. I know how hard it is, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's a much more engaging approach than a perfectly edited, all the shapes and everything's, you know, doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I'm so far, I haven't had my hair done in months. I just want someone who can take me on a journey. So work on your charisma and just work on your story. You know, like my favorite presenters are the ones that take me on a journey, and it's like, you know what, I've had a crap day today, come with me, let's do something about that, you know, and just share a little bit of that. So you've still got to be good at what you do. You've still got to clearly teach things. So people need to get a result. There are so many great choices out there, and unfortunately you are competing against Thor, and you are competing
I've seen that, right.
all the half naked girls of Instagram around their pools that they rented from their, you know, rich uncle and whatever. So
Yeah.
you're up against all of that, but you have your community, and just start where you are. Start with your audience. Start with one. So that would be one thing, is just develop your skills, develop your community around that, and then don't drop the ball. If you say you're going to do Monday at whatever, do Monday at whatever, and then keep doing it. And then if they, you know, get some feedback and adjust. Become data led. So listen, you know, what do your people like? When do they drop off? You know, so you've got to start amending and switch the feedback, switch the F word. So it's not failure, it's feedback. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Try something else, or stick at it for a bit more of a week. And we know this, getting a podcast started, starting a class, building an empty class, it's all the same. You've got to be resilient, and you've got to keep going. Another place I would suggest is sniff around corporate opportunities. Every business in the world is trying to now have a workforce that's partly at home, maybe they're partly in the office. They're going to need a fitness offering. Because
fitness is the glue there, right? That's the thing where they can get all of their people contributing and acting together in a way that isn't forced, like a Zoom bingo or something like that.
Exactly. So there's going to be opportunities there, because, you know, we have businesses, we're trying to partner with people who can bring health and wellness. So whether it's in the physical world or digital, look at that. The other thing that fitness instructors are really good at is generally educating and being in front of people. So I think if I was, you know, just an instructor, if I was instructing for a living right now, I would also be looking at learning opportunities within corporate business, where I can perhaps be the deliverer of information, be it digital or in real life, whatever, because we're great in front of a crowd. We know how to whip a room, we know how to get people excited, and we know how to deliver information. So, you know, that's something that I would be looking very closely at. And maybe you need to do a little bit of retraining. Now's the perfect time. You can train for nearly free. There's every masterclass you can imagine online for nearly free, or you can pay a little bit of money and walk away with a great certificate or a diploma or something. So I would look at moving into that. And that's why I stepped back into search. I never thought I'd be in the people side of business again, but there was a need. There is a need for corporate wellness, and there's not that many people that deliver it as passionately as an aerobics instructor. So I'd be looking at that, and there's money in that because it's corporate, right? And they're providing a good health service. So that's a couple of things that I would be working on. Yeah.
So I want to circle back to one of the things you said at the start, which is, you know, being authentic and working on your charisma. So you were creative director of Les Mills, one of the original Les Mills master trainers around the world. Like, you have trained thousands of instructors. You've also been at Equinox, which is at the very top end of boutique and creating star instructors. What are some strategies that you say you're a listener of this podcast and you've heard Emma Barry say this and you're thinking, shit, how do I work on my charisma? Isn't charisma something you have or you don't have? What are your top tips or strategies for like understanding your charisma and building it?
The old X Factor.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, how do you have X Factor?
Yeah, look, I think we all have some magic inside us. So, there's some people who can fill a room. We talk a lot about little rooms. Some people are really great intimate. They're great instructors. They look after their 10 or their 15 or their 20 people. And you've got some people who are like a big, booming, big room. Some people have both. Now, yes, of course, we have a bit of genetic stuff in there, and people can walk into a room. I remember we were at one of the URSs. I remember Bill Clinton came and spoke, and I was like, oh, I see why he got into so
Yeah.
much trouble. The guy has charisma, like he was the whole, the guys and the girls were like, oh my God.
I once saw Rihanna in person, and you were just drawn, like obviously people kind of milling around, but there was just an energy about her that was just, it drew you in completely.
Yeah, so look, there's a reason that these people are very great leaders and stars in their own right, but there is also tricks.
Mm-hmm.
And the tricks are, there's a certain way, and you know this from years presenting on video, you can look like a complete tosser and an asshole and the rest of it, or you can actually come across and you can start to change some of the things that you do on screen. Like one of the things that I learned, so that some tips just top of head might be, always speak through a smile. When I look at the Tone It Up and all the girls and the people that present on that platform, they all make you feel great. Like they're all pretty and they've all got good bodies, but actually they're there for you. And they're just, so you can speak through a smile if that's part of your vibe. If you're going to be like a, hardcore Sergeant Ken or whatever, maybe that's your vibe. But there's tricks you can do. So, and we know this from filming. What do we do in a filming week? We film, we go back, we make it better. Don't do this, the arm looks weird here. Do the same thing in terms of how you're coming across. Oh God, that didn't ring true. When you say stuff, so it's repeating, like film yourself, repeat yourself. I've done a couple of courses with brands recently where, gosh, can you please get our instructors ready for camera? So it's always the same thing. I'm like, guys, you're speaking to your best friend down the camera. Okay, so you literally have to imagine like Will's on the end of that camera speaking to you. So that starts getting it more of a conversational tone. And then it gives me something to focus on. Because when I'm sitting here going, oh my God, I'm talking to no one. I wonder if you're in that space, that's going to come through. It is so good to see you here today. Well, I can't wait for us to do this workout together. It's so exciting. I've got 3 new moves, never done them before. Let's see how we go. Do you know what I mean? So it changes your focus. Then start going, oh, that wasn't very powerful. Or it's more powerful when I come in and when I talk these things. So you start to find your things that make you feel, and you start to, and
what I'm hearing is that you have to try and then review the things that you've tried. You can't just throw it out there and see what happens. You need to go back you touch on a really great point, which is why I think the Les Mills process was so good at getting a great end product, is that, you taught 7 classes over a week. You did the same class every day. You tried the joke, flat, didn't work, move on. And you tried the cue, landed perfect. And by the end of it, you had this script that was really good. And, you can get a bit too technical, but I think there's a sweet spot. But a lot of people don't like watching themselves on camera, and so they don't watch themselves back. And the single biggest learning tool is watching yourself back, because you'll go, oh, I hate that, or oh, that wasn't so bad. And then you kind of write down the things that are good, the things that are bad, and move from there.
And we don't rehearse enough well. Like the teams that I work with, like even when I'm running a training, it's like, I'm not interested in you doing it once. I'm interested in you doing it 10 times. Like, hey guys, we're going to be doing intros. You're with a partner. You are literally going to do it 10 times. If you go on any investor, we were on an investing thing today, guys pitch hundreds of times. Hundreds of times. So you have to do, and I don't believe I'm with Sasha on this, it's not 10,000 hours, but it's targeted training. So it's kind of like, I'll get the guys and I'll say, I want to see the perfect intro. I want to see a smile. I want to see you deliver the information. I want to feel you. And at no point do you lose me. Like, that's it. And you might have to do it 10 times, but I'd rather do it 10 times now, find myself. And then every time the camera goes on, I'm now there. So the quickest way I got good, and this is a related story, was when we were on tour. When we were touring Body Pump in the early days, you were literally teaching 10 times a week. So what we'd teach, tainted love back in the day, whatever.
I'm sure it's been at least 4 times through each program.
I'm sure. Anyway, so you'd do it, you'd get reviewed, and then by God, you'd be on stage again at lunchtime. Man, I tell you, within 2 weeks, you were shit hot. So it's the same thing here. film and record, get used to it, and just get over yourself. Like, and that's just, again, you've just got to get used to it. And if there's things you don't like, then change them. If there's things, and then also get some feedback from the market. So, like when I was doing my shout outs, during we were under heavy lockdown, I'd go, oh my God, that one was so lame. Oh, well, post it
Did you
anyway.
did you do them in one take? Did you like go, or did you sometimes re-record them? I'm curious.
In the end, I would sometimes re-record them, but it was funny. I was talking about it the other day. It actually became a full-time job, as you know, just coming up. I accidentally created another whole friggin' job for myself that I did not need, but it actually saved me in another way. But I tend to do stuff on auto cue because I have so much stuff going through the day. I've got to work two full-time jobs and then do this other thing. So I will tend to script it, but yeah, I would do it a few times. But in the end, and the ones that I thought were the flat were the ones that people go, oh my God, that really spoke to me today. So that's another thing you've got to do is get over yourself.
Yeah, I've given that. I was on another podcast recently, and they asked me what would be the one piece of advice you give a personal trainer who wants to go digital, and I was like, get over yourself, just start.
Just start, yeah, and no one's your biggest critic than you, and so it's just that, and then it gets easier, and then it just to create a habit, like just say, and I've done so much live and so many podcasts and all that stuff right now, it's like second nature to me now. You can get there too, but just say yes to everything, put yourself under the pressure, just say I'm going to go live every day, and then and just do the rehearsal work, do the targeted rehearsal work. Yeah.
We've got quite a few shift instructors that have come in because they were teaching other formats or teaching freestyle, and then the fact that they could use less time, teach it anywhere, online, pre-recorded, all that sort of thing. And the one problem many of them had is that they hadn't done digital before. And the number of people who, and I'm talking about, say a woman in her mid 40s who's, just bought a new phone, knows they want to go digital, but has never done this before. And they started off feeling very, very out of their depth when it came to digital, and now they're just flying, and it's just a case of doing it, right? It's like driving a car. Think of the first time you got in the car and wanted to drive. It was so many different things that you had to think about, so stressful, so anxious, not enjoyable. Now you just get in and go, and like often enjoy it, and it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's repetition, and it's targeted training early so that you feel comfortable, and then a nice little bit if you can, just pop up a couple of nice lights, just to make yourself look 10 years younger than you are.
Yeah, exactly. a nice little ring light. A diva lamp, as I like to call it. So now I'd like to sort of pick your brain a little bit. What do you think are the sort of biggest trends that are going to, so aside from the personalization of fitness and the increasing influence of technology and all that sort of stuff, when it comes to like thinking more like styles of training or ways that people want to move, what do you think is the next big thing? What do you think is the biggest thing right now? I'm curious. And what do you think is the next big thing?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think it's a number of different things depending on where you are and what you're into. But I think some of the hangovers from these times will be outdoors. I think hearables will continue to accelerate because they're linked to two things. They're linked to sensors in your clothing. So I can now get in-ear coaching that is real time. So if I'm looking at a sensor.
By hearables, you mean explain that a little bit.
Okay, so hearables. So when I was at CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show, which was one of the last live things I did this year, with 100,000 other people, and I was the dumbest person in the room, and and our industry was the slowest to evolve. Like I just walked around with my mouth permanently open, going, "Is that a robot following me?" Like freaky. But anyway, hearables. I went to the Wearables Summit, and hearables or in ear. So if you think about like anything Bluetooth, and they were taking it to the point of, so maybe it's an active workout, so maybe it's an audio workout, or where they're going to now is it's real-time coaching based on sensors that might be in my clothing or on my body. So say if I'm wearing a shirt, it's got a couple of sensors in my shoulders.
Right, so it's like to coach you to run better or to move better. Wow.
100%. So draw your back shoulder back, into your warrior or whatever, because it can pick up in your body. Or like you're running, hey, heart rate's just clip back a little bit.
Yeah, your stride length just changed. Like, yeah, you need to like lengthen your stride or whatever.
Yeah. So I think that's coming. And the thing that I love about, and hearables at that point, I mean, this was prior to Apple's announcement around their watch and all their stuff there, but
Yeah.
hearables were outperforming watches big time. Like in-ear stuff, you know, coaching and real-time coaching was outperforming. Now it's still very expensive and it's still very early stage, but I expect that to be very big, because if we can link outdoors with, I've got someone in my ear, but I'm not having to watch a screen, or maybe my screen, you know, Ready Player One style starts coming up, you know, it becomes
augmented reality. Yeah.
So we know that that's coming. You know, Apple, no doubt, are working on the glasses and stuff as well. So that would be my next point. So hearables, then I would say reality or digital reality is going to get really good. Yeah, and yes, you can say it's a cerebral game and that your mind is tricking you to think that you are places, but you've had VR experiences where you are scared, or you are feeling like you're on the cliff, or, you know, even the California, you know, whatever that ride is, and, you know, all the theme parks, you feel like
the old school Star Wars at Disneyland or Universal Studios, right? Like you can feel it.
You can feel it. So, and that's going to get better. If you look at the technology that's been happening in gaming, if you look at the virtual reality that industries like the sex industry, like there's just industries that have been really focusing in on getting you there, giving you an experience, and fitness will be no different. So we know
Do you
that.
think that fitness will start to integrate more? Because I was looking at the stats, how the biggest watched sporting event of the year was esports, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's the thing about esports obviously is I know that there's a lot of sedentary viewers of football and rugby, you know, but they used to play it, right? Like they went through a period of that was an active pursuit when they were a child, and now they watch it. Whereas, you know, there's no fitness side. It's contributing to obesity, not getting out and just playing a video game all day. Do you see the popularity of gaming and all that sort of stuff merging with fitness in a positive way? Can you see where that?
Absolutely. And I think that will be, I personally think that will be the next frontier, because I think whoever can crack that, and that's why I say it's going to be big tech. It's going to be someone who has deep enough pockets with a reach into the gaming. Because I agree, and most people, like, because the goggles are so clunky right now, and it's funny, we're doing something for Ride High coming up, and I think this has a big thing to play, because when you're cycling, you're relatively stationary.
Yeah.
So I actually think there is, you know, and we've got the Trip, you know, the immersive experience of Les Mills, the Trip and things like that, but I think it's going to get much more visceral.
I've also seen a boxing one where like you wear the goggles and the things come at you and you have to box up, box down, and you're holding onto the controllers, which is actually pretty cool. Like I can see how that could.
I mean, it's still clunky, and
yeah.
It's a little bit more than
it's a bit gimmicky at the moment, right? Like whereas
and VR, I mean, Black Box, they've done the same thing. So that's sort of the first stretch into VR. Most people think AR or augmented reality is where there will be more application immediately for fitness. So I would look to Asia. I just think there's so much technology going on in Asia, which we never get to see, because we're always basically half at war with them. So it's like, you know, certainly there could be no good ideas coming from outside the United States. So there's kind of all of that. But I look, tech to me, that's going to be the next frontier. So when I think of technology, I see it on that continuum, and I think it's going to get really good. I mean, you even look at how sticky Peloton's been, and that's leaderboards and shout outs. I mean, that's with fairly tangible things. Imagine when I can actually feel like I'm in the room. Imagine if you and I, and this is where I think we're going to go quite quickly, I could actually be working out with my real friends in Sydney, in London, in Paris, in Amsterdam. I actually could be doing that for real. We're all there, cracking jokes and doing whatever we do. I think that's going to be the next thing, and I think technology is going to take us there.
I was actually just thinking, like, someone was talking about how do you utilize Zoom, and I'm like, you know, you could do a walking group on Zoom. You do a Zoom, you have your phone open, and you all go for a walk around the block in a different location. I think there's a business idea in that, and I was kind of playing that forward and thinking, like, I would much rather go for a run if I was going for a run with a friend and they were connected into me and we were chatting and I was seeing their performance, and especially if there was like an ability for me to see where they were running and them to see where I was running, like someone running in New Zealand along Piha, whereas I'm running across like Tower Bridge. That would be cool. And I don't like running, but I'm like, that would make me run.
Yeah, exactly. And you're exactly right. And all of that's coming. And we know that because the movies have already forecast it. Like we already know. I mean, that technology exists. A lot of it's in med tech. So, when I looked at, because we're still wearing big clunky heart rate monitors, and everything's so hard, and this has got to sync with that, and
Yeah.
I've got 9 different pieces of technology to give me one picture, all of that stuff. That's all going to get simpler. But then when I looked at the nanotech, so if you look at newborn babies, the medical industry right now is just putting little patches. So rather than all the tubes and everything going through a newborn baby, they've got little patches. So it's not going to take too much longer before that comes into our world as well, where everything's a lot more less invasive, and it's either in the clothing or it's
I
on
just
me.
watched Brave New World, and it's all through. They have a little contact lens that gives them all of the augmented reality straight into the cortex.
So of course it's all coming, because to have come up with all this stuff, it's got to exist in some form, and it'll take us a few years to get there, but I absolutely believe that's where we're going. So what you bring up is the next frontier, I think.
So interesting question, because right at the top you said something about not knowing if you wanted to have Apple Home listening into all your conversations, and I know that I've had conversations about some random thing and then been served that ad on Facebook, and I know that there is a coincidence factor, but I'm certain that Siri is listening to me. But the question that I've got for you is, you have 3 teenage children, right? And how old's Max, your youngest?
Max is 13.
How does he feel about his interactions with technology? Because I think that we're an aging generation, right? Like, we're never going to pick up this new stuff in the same way that the generation that's coming up now is going to take it. How does he feel about Apple Home? Does he have any kind of are his barriers with technology the same as yours, or noticeably different?
They're noticeably different, and I mean, we fight pretty hard to make sure that they still have a physical life
Yep.
in this fast. So he's native to tech, they do actually, they operate with a lot less judgment around it, so they're naturally doing stuff. And I think Fortnite was the great example of this, because everyone's like, oh, it's technology. No, the brilliance of that was you're actually still with your mates in the neighborhood, talking to them within a game.
Yep.
And that is that whole true blending. So, and we're pretty limited on the amount of time that we let him go onto the gaming, but he'd have a great time when he did. And people are like, well, it's not very social. It's very social. I'm sitting in there listening to them all talking, and that's all like they're all in the room and they're still doing these things. So that they definitely see it as part of that. I think the issue for me is where it crosses into mental health stuff. Now,
Right.
what I observe in my children is this. They now make a decision, whether it's a big decision, a mindful decision, something that should have a little bit more integrity or something around it. They'll make that decision in under a second. I have an issue with that.
Explain that a little bit to me, because I'm really curious. What do you like? What do you mean by that?
So think about, let's just think about scrolling through social media as an example.
Right.
So we make a decision, this, what does Will stop on? Well, let's serve more. It's the whole social.
Oh, it's that social dilemma thing where, they're like, okay, feed him that, feed him that, feed him that, feed him the girlfriend that now is going out with his best friend.
Exactly. So there's that going on. So what I'm saying is they're deciding that they're in a very, very real-time culture where you're making decisions. Do I respond to that person? Do I like that? Do I not like that? All the hate stuff, all the bullying, everything that's on. They're operating at a speed that we just can't even fathom. Even you look at their thumbs going, you look at...
I mean, I've noticed that before when I've seen younger people,
younger
people using technology.
He can't wait to inherit my computer so he can have 4 screens in his room and have everything going. He's literally on Minority Report. He's literally pulling. So with that speed, and then you've got an undeveloped mind. You're not even myelinated till we're 25 years old. You're making 100 decisions at a speed that is blurring to me. I just can't even understand how you can think that fast. But it's not fully developed thinking. It's not emotionally developed thinking. And then everything is kind of right size. So it's kind of like you might be making a decision around reaching out to a friend who actually needs help in the same way of whether or not you're commenting on the latest, hip hop artist. Do you know what I mean? So everything is served up together, and you don't necessarily...
And it's all done through the phone. Like, the delivery mechanism for the choice and the response is always the same thing, regardless of what it is, whether it's ordering food or catching up with a loved one who's lost a member of their family.
Yeah, so I think where the big separation is then you're in your own world, creating your own reality around you at pace. Then you've got to go out, and we have this. Sometimes we've got to pull them off tech to actually have a human discussion.
Yeah.
And I know that we're archaic and all of that, but I really worry about the pace of the pace of the psychology that we're changing in our next generation, because not all of it is good, because they're not fully formed, they don't have their feet in the earth, they're not down to earth, and they don't understand how to make, like, you see them getting in trouble really quickly because it's just, you're swiping, you're in
Yeah.
and out, you're all piling on. Look at the bullying.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
our cyber cop, a great example is our cyber cop who speaks to all the local schools, amazing guy, part of the police force here, but he's like, watching a kid move through to suicide is a very quick process. They get bullied, everyone piles on, including their friends.
They
Just ha
think
ha
they
ha,
think they're
ha ha
completely
ha.
isolated.
They don't sleep. They don't sleep a second night, and then they top themselves. Like that whole journey is very fast when you're operating in an environment that's not real, that is at scale, and the
Mm,
whole world saw it, at least according to your world.
yeah.
So it's not, you're not given the emotional maturity to deal with stuff. So look, they're used to it. They're used to things, but they're also used to things coming easy. Why would I do that? Of course we're going to cheat at school, because that's the quickest way. Like, just pull that in. Why are we? It's not plagiarism. It's creativity. It's
Yeah.
open source. So they're
Yeah,
very.
open source. It's not cheating, it's open source. That's good. I'm stealing that one.
It's the same thing in Asia. You speak, oh, they rip your stuff off. They don't see it as ripping your stuff off. It's open source. It's available.
When I was at ClassPass, in Singapore, there was basically a Telegram group. So they weren't on WhatsApp, they're on Telegram. But basically, every time ClassPass would do any type of membership deal, there would just be this Telegram group, and they would all be buying and selling their own trial memberships in a black market. And they were just like, it's just the way it works there, right?
It
And they
is.
don't see it as cheating. It's basically like playing the system to its umpteenth.
Exactly. It's their version of Monopoly, for sure.
So this is really interesting. So like we've definitely talked about a lot of future facing stuff. Not all of it good, obviously. So the impact, yeah. Are there any other kind of, so taking it away from the teen side and thinking more about kind of the fitness industry again, are there any negatives from technology that you're seeing within fitness, or is it generally a positive thing?
There's always negatives, right? There's always going to be light and shade on any topic. I think the sedentary nature, we do run the risk, I think, of becoming overly cerebral and just
Hmm.
kind of living it out, in our worlds. And that is, I think that's my anxiety around smart homes and things like that is, what am I actually, if I don't have to do any of the things in my day now, like work out what I need to exercise and work out what I need to eat and actually go to the supermarket because my fridge has already ordered it,
Oh,
and actually
right. Yeah.
play the music that was just basically the algorithm of stuff that I like. So
Yeah.
I think it comes back to human spirit, and I think
Yeah.
it comes back to, you know, how do I get to, is it my destiny to just have my whole life laid out in front of me? And it's the matrix question,
Yeah.
right? Like, do
Yeah.
I
Well, are we even
actually
in
have
the
choice?
simulation right now, Emma?
Do I actually have choice, or am I just living out an algorithm?
Yeah.
I worry about that I don't worry about it, but I do think about it every day. I sort of think, here I am at my particular age, my particular sex, my particular demographics, and I'm just being fed the life that millions of other women
Yeah.
like me, and we all think we're so special little
It's the
snowflakes.
irony of the modern times, right? Is that we've all been brought up to think we're completely unique, yet we're all being created as an avatar and then fed what people know we want.
Precisely, and it's like, is that the human? And I always think that there's more to that. I think we are here to be specialists. So when you say what are the risks around this, I think that's it. The risk is that we're becoming, um, are we integrating with technology in a way that's still going to grow the human spirit, or are we literally replacing ourselves but not staying ahead of it to actually evolve where we should be evolving to, which is creativity, which is constructive thought, which is problem solving, which is reaching more spirituality, which is actually being kinder, better people. And so I worry about that, because I can see, like, my kids, like, they'll send me stuff and then they'll say RN, like right now, and I'll be like, you shit, and they're like, it's just, I need it right now as
Yeah.
opposed to later. And I take it as, well,
How
I've
dare
got
you think that you can monopolize my time like that?
but that's, so there's an impatience, and there's a dumbing downness, and that's what I worry about, is the human spirit. The human spirit's the thing I worry most about in this, because we seem to be giving away so much. Computers are going to outperform us in most things. Think about it:
Mm,
law, medical, they can pick cancer with more accuracy than humans. Like
Yeah, they'll
this
be doing operations via laser in a way that with no chance of medical misadventure or mistake.
exactly, because they can pull on the 300,000, articles
Mm.
that have ever been written on it, come with the right thing and go. So that worries me, because then when that thinking gets ahead of us, and it's all the doomsday sci-fi movies that
Yeah.
we watch, and we smoke the planet while the machines take over, and
Yeah.
that I do worry about that for real, because when you've got people like Elon Musk saying we're getting ahead of ourselves, or we're letting other things get ahead of ourselves, and we need, and the fact that you're always partially at war, and technology is the new war, it's
Yeah.
it's like, that look at the hackability. Like, I don't even want to have another privacy conversation, because forget about it, guys. That ship sailed
Yeah,
around
that
the
ship has sailed, right?
sorry. But if
I
you
say that as being a trained lawyer that's worked for technology companies. I'm like,
It's
yeah.
too late, guys. It's too late. And all you do is you just buy the more expensive hacker, the new 12-year-old who just, hacked Apple or whatever.
Mm.
And you get them in, and that's all going to be used for good and for bad and for power and for money. It always is. So yeah, humans.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. So I think before we jumped on the podcast, I said I don't want to talk about COVID. I've talked about COVID way too much, but in a kind of nice way, in a way that I think kind of wraps up our conversation. That's one of the I've seen recently, like one of the few things that I think COVID and having to deal with lockdown has done is it's kind of shaken the tree a little bit, and it's forced everybody to stop speeding along the direction they were going. And it's not always good. Like lots of people have people have died, people have really struggled, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, like many industries are going to be devastated, but everybody's had to stop, listen, look, and if you're in the fitness industry, you've had to pivot to something you've never done before, learn a whole lot of new skills, be challenged in a way that you might not have been challenged, think about the future in a way that you hadn't been thinking about it. And if if COVID has done anything positive, it's kind of bringing us back into reality for a second that we may have got a little bit caught up in.
Yeah, I feel like we got pulled back 100 years, like
Yeah.
technology charged forward, but we've been forced back into our community, having to have a conversation with our actual family every day,
Yeah.
being held in place, and then doing, it's, you literally have done all the seasons of grief. You've had to go through that whole wheel.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting now that we are where we are, like, what, 8 months in at the recording of this, it's like, for all the crap that's going on in my life, in every aspect, in all the whole wheel, like the whole wheel has been changed, and yet, I, in a funny kind of way, I feel the most alive and the most strong, even though I've got the most reason not to. And I think I'm not alone in that. I don't know. It's something very interesting. Being held in place, we're being pushed back to old values, have deeper conversations, use more senses, slow down, stop. We're taking it. It can all be taken away. And I think we've lived in such privileged times,
Yeah,
and you
I
and
agree.
I are, we're privileged. We've had such experience.
Traveled the world, like experienced so many things. Never I know that you traveled an awful lot, but I would, never be in the same city for more than 3 weeks in a row without like at least a work trip or a social trip away.
No. And what's been left with me, the remnant of that has been deep gratitude. Like, I've
Mm.
been reliving, I don't know what it's been like for you, but I've actually been reliving, and of course Facebook helps you do that, right, by shoving up your old content every day, but reliving just amazing memories, and just like a whole new appreciation of the richness of life. Like, that's definitely come to me, for sure.
But I will be looking forward to getting back to Ibiza.
Well, yeah, well, it has to be a beat. And I'm so happy that, well, we managed to squeeze that in 2019, and I'm so grateful for that, because that's sort of been the juice that sort of kept us going anyway.
So the last thing I have to say, or the last thing I have to ask, I should say, is so what's kind of next on the plan for you? Like, what's the major thing that you're focusing on as we go into the final little burst of 2020?
Yeah, well, for us as a family, we're actually deciding if we're going to stay here in the US, to be honest.
Oh wow, okay.
Well, just for you've always got to look at all your options. We've all watched potentially everything can go away. So, that's a decision we have to make. We're sort of in the last few years of our green card, so we're just, looking at that. And to be honest, we're dispassionately looking at that. We're actually looking at all the options, because that's another big, lesson I've had during these times is you have to look at all the options, and sometimes you
Mm,
just make decisions that, just give it a few months of, going in the wrong direction and seeing more things be taken away from you. And I've actually, you have this new appreciation of what's really important to you. And it is the health and the welfare of your family, of your loved ones, and just the stark reality of where's business going to be. So, we've got that decision to make. We'll continue on with search, and I remain open to the ways in which I can serve the world going forward. So I have no judgment in that. I can't tell you what I'm actually going to be doing in 2 years because I don't know, and I'm actually okay with that. But I know that I will continue to step into the space that is asked of me. And that feels quite freeing,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's it for now. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a wonderful place to finish it. Thank you very much, Emma, for joining me. I will be having you back, definitely. We'll have to
Oh, I'd
we'll pick
love
another topic that we'll talk
anything to
about.
see you. Anything to see
Cheers, Emma.
you. Okay, Joe.